Oh no!
Awesome.
Mind my business!
Fail.
Mind my business.
Oh yeah.
Mind my business. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Mind My Business. It's our opinion podcast and it's week 2 after the Easter break. And we're happy to be back and share our thoughts and opinions. And of course, over the Easter weekend, a lot of new things came up, a lot of interesting articles popped up. But there's one thing that I want to talk about today, and that's the Cumulus Media 2022 Audioscape. I had to read that from the teleprompter. It's a new study that came out. It's about podcasting, the podcast industry, and a lot about the audiences by age and all these different clusters. And I think the most important aspects that I want to share first are some of the findings that I find really interesting. And it's one thing that is pretty clear, but it's still the continuing rise of Spotify, so that a subscription service has soared 5 times over since 2016. Smart speaker owners have, I think, quadrupled. So again, from 7 to 35% since 2017. So that's a trend that's still continuing, but now it's moving into the range where smart speakers as an outlet are becoming really relevant, because if you look at the US population, there's 35% of the population that have a smart speaker in their house, and it's growing in Europe as well. Another thing that is really interesting is the potential that they see in that study of that 50 plus demographic. So very underrepresented age group that is quite interesting, and a lot of people want to tap into it. And I saw a lot of comments in the last week that, there is a lot of potential to do podcasting for and I want to phrase it not offensively, for the older generations, 50 plus, the baby boomers, and a bit younger. There's a lot of potential. There's not a lot of podcasts for that age group, and they have a lot of money to spend, so it's also very interesting for advertisers to get into that area. When we look at the German market, it might be even a bit more difficult due to the power of the public radio stations and the public media outlets that have a lot of radio, a lot of podcasting, where people don't diverge from that field. So it might be more difficult for platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts to tap into the potential of that, especially when we talk about Germany. And then there's another thing that is quite interesting that I saw in that study, and it's nothing really new, but it confirmed again that the audience for podcasts is much younger than if we look at classic radio, and it's more than 10 years younger. So on average, or the average age of a podcast listener is 33. So quite young, beginning of their work life, especially when you look at Germany, when you go to university and everything, and you get into your first real jobs late 20s. So it's strongly driven by that age group of 18 to 25 that make up that demographic. On listening to podcasts on a daily basis. And I think now let's move into that area that we talk about. It's corporate podcasting, and I think it's a big chance for organizations. Again, you could look at the potential of, hey, can I create something that is relevant for that age group 50 plus? Do I do a B2C podcast, or do I double down on my efforts to bringing in new people into my organizations to build to go big on employer branding, and also for internal podcasting? Because that age group 18 to 25, that is the one just starting in the workforce or about to start joining the workforce, and they are very strong on audio, so that could be something really relevant for your organization to invest in your future of employee engagement, loyalty, creating a new way of work environment in your organization, and bringing in audio into that environment. And I think it could really work, because we already see that the young demographic is strongly into podcasts. They really like it, and they like it due to a few things, and that was quite interesting. It's not from that study, but it's something where we did our own research, and also there is some research out there as well that talks about why the younger demographic likes to listen to podcasts, and it's that that very authentic, personal, and in quotation marks, non-glossy way of communicating. It's more authentic, it's more earthy, it's more personal. That's why young people like to listen to podcasts, and that is something that they expect from the companies that they work for as well, and as well from the companies that they buy from. They want to have that authentic experience. They want to have truth, honesty, and podcasts and audio in general is a very, very good way to do that. So in my opinion, doubling down your efforts on really making an audio strategy for your internal communications work is something that should be a focus of attention in the next 12 to 18 months, to really think about, how do I set up my organization to attract young people to my organization, and, to have high satisfaction of employees so they stay longer within my organization. Because, of course, and I don't want to bring up that topic of war for talent again, is really important. So I think, in my opinion, that is something you should focus on. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Quite interesting study. I will link it. I will put the link in the description as well, so you can download it for free if you're interested. If you're interested in talking more about corporate podcasting, or if you agree or disagree, feel free to reach out. Looking forward to hearing from you, and I hear you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.
Why don't you mind your business?